Hey, back again with another tutorial, this time for the Yamaha DX200. The Yamaha DX200 Loop Factory is an digital FM groovebox kind of thing. And if you read reviews of it, everyone says it can play old Yamaha DX7 sounds because of the card that's in it. I'll post the name of the card here. It's a bunch of letters. I'll put it up on the screen. Anyway, even though everyone says you can do that, I couldn't figure out how, or I wanted to figure out how, and I finally did. So you have to use an editor, and this is going to be the editor I'm using, the Yamaha DX200 Editor. There is, this is on Windows. There is a version for Mac, which I can't really try, and there's a program out there called Patchbase, which actually works on Apple stuff that will let you do this a little more easily. But this is the old way of doing it with the old Yamaha software. Alright, to get this working, first you're going to need the Yamaha XG software, and then you're going to add the DX200 Editor as a plugin into that software. So what you do, you go to this site here, www.xg-central.com, and into the software. I'll put the link in the description. And you come down to Tools, and you get Yamaha's good old XG Works 3.0.7e. So you grab that, save it, I'll put it on the desktop. Now there are some other videos out there about how to get this working under Windows, more recent editions of Windows. You can get it working under Windows 10. I'm using Windows 8.1, and the way to do that is to use compatibility mode. Okay, so I've got it on my desktop now. It's a RAR file, basically like a zip file. So the way I'm gonna unrar it is using 7-zip. So you just search for 7-zip, and you go there, you download the one for your 32-bit, 64-bit, whatever you need, and install that. And then you'll be able to right-click, and you'll be able to basically unzip it, unrar it. Just do extract files here, and you get your folder with your XG Works. So what you got to do with this is you can't just install it like this because it's for Windows 98, Windows XP. There are other YouTube videos about this, setting this up, XG Works, so you can look for those, but I'll just show you quickly here. You right click it and you go to Properties. The other video I found, he used compatibility mode, Windows 98. This version of XG Works 3.0.7e actually runs under Windows XP, no problem. So I used Windows XP Service Pack 3. So again, you right click it, you go over to the Compatibility tab, and you choose Compatibility Mode, Windows XP Service Pack 3. You do Apply, and then you've got it, the properties set up for compatibility mode. So you right click it, run as administrator, and you allow the user access, and then the installer will open up, and you can carry on from there, read all of that and set it up. Okay, so then it gets it installed, and then I'll show you getting the editor next. Okay, now to get the Yamaha DX200 Editor to use with XG Works, you search for Yamaha DX200 Editor, and you want to go to the Yamaha site, and you're going to read through the license agreement and agree to that, and then download that one. And I'm going to save that to the desktop too. Okay, so now it's on the desktop as well. You can unzip it the usual way or use your new 7-zip. Okay, then you get your folder and you go into the editor, and you're going to do the compatibility mode again on the setup. So again, right click it, properties, compatibility, put it on Windows XP Service Pack 3, apply it, and then you're going to right click it and run as administrator. So I'm not going to reinstall this because it's already installed. I will quickly pop that up and show you. So what this is here, let me actually open it from scratch. So I've got my XG Works. It's going to open it up. Okay, and then first you're going to set it up. The main thing is you want your MIDI in and MIDI out ports, so choose those from your MIDI device. MIDI in here, MIDI out here, and that should be good. And then when you go under plugin, you'll have your DX200 Editor. So you open that up, and I'll show you a bit more about that next. Okay, the next thing you're going to want to make sure that you're in MIDI control on this device. So you're going to do Shift and you're going to hold down 14, or just click 14, and you click through it until you get to that. I'll try to pause it on that. Let's go through one more time. It's the M control, and then you make sure that's on, and you can exit that. The other thing you want to do is Shift 16, and that's going to get you through to Protect, P-R-O-T. That's the memory protect. You want to make sure that's off, and that will let you save some sounds onto this. So again, Protect off. Okay, so now you've got your DX200 Editor, and you've got your DX200 MIDI connected to your system, and it should be able to talk to it now. Now the way to test it is you go on File, and I do a new DX200 Editor file, and you're going to see the LED on the DX200 is going to start looping. All right, that means it's connecting, picking up the first patch. So it does load a patch in there, just the basic initial patch, but first I want to show you, you might want to save your user patches off of this. Alright, so then you just go on to your DX200 editor, you click Receive DX200 Bulk Dump Data, choose all user patterns and voices, and model DX200, click Start, and it starts looping on the DX200, and it's receiving the bulk dump. So I'll just fast forward, well, I'll just pause this, and then when it's all loaded up, I'll show you the next stage. Okay, once you've received the whole dump, you click OK, and you'll be able to look at your, go under Edit and DX200 pattern list, and you're going to see the two preset banks that are always on the DX200, and then your use it data. So I had initialized a bunch of them, and I've got some of these here already. Show you more on that later, but you probably want to save this. So I like to go under save as, save DX200 editor file as, and name it whatever you want, user patterns, and the date, whatever, however you want to save them. Alright, I've got them saved already, so I'm not going to save them again. Once you're done that, I'd like to start from scratch here. So you go File, New DX200 Editor File, and it's going to initialize the user patches, but it's not doing it on the device yet. It's just doing it within the editor. So under here, if you're going to go into Edit, DX200 Pattern List, you're going to see they're all initialized. Again, I haven't sent these empty patches back to the DX200. Alright, now that you're ready with the editor talking to the DX200, you're going to want to get the patches. So the DX7 patches, I haven't found a way to just send the SYSEX banks that you get everywhere. So you're a little bit limited with the patterns right now. Because of the kindness of strangers, you have to use with the DX200 editor either DXC banks, which is DX cartridge for the DX simulator, or DX2 banks, which are DX200. I haven't found any of those on the net, so I found DXC cartridges though on this site here. I'll put the link in the description. What you have to do, scroll down here to May the 4th, and there's this kind person DJB who has attached the DXC files, which include the original DX7 banks from this other site. So what I did here is he's got them all in a zip file. So save that off, and then you can extract that and you'll have a bunch of DXC banks. You can also get them from this French site that he's linked to, if you know French, but essentially you want to get this one here, which is Laurent 0375 patches, 24 different DXC cartridges. So that's quite extensive. And this one over here, you want to get this one too. It has 4 of the DX7 ROMs as DXC files. Alright, once you have those DXC cartridges unzipped, I like to use 7-zip again to unzip them, because the Windows unzipper seem to just stall. So anyway, it comes out to these 3 folders. These nosebleed ones are the ones, the DXC here, it's already the ones in the DX200, so you don't really need to use those. And then there are the DX7 ROMs, 4 different ROMs. Okay, they show up as DXC here. It also has the SYSEX, and I don't really know how to convert one to the other, so that's why we're using the DXC. And then you've got a whole bunch of banks from this Laurent 075, sort of organized as the original banks, and then basses, electric pianos, flutes, guitars, etc. Alright, now that you've got your DX cartridges, you're gonna load one up into the DX200 editor. So you go ahead and open, and you're going to find where you saved your cartridges, where you extracted them. And down here, types of files, you've got to switch to DXC. Okay, and then there you go. So I'm gonna go for original DX and open those up. It will communicate one of the patches to your device, and then it will show you that you're on flute 1 or whatever one it defaults to. So now if you go to DX200 pattern list, you can see them all listed here. It doesn't do 128, it just does the 64 bank. And as you choose these, it will load them into your DX200, and I'll play that in a second. Okay, so now you've got your cartridge loaded, and you can click through the different sounds and they'll transmit over to the DX200. So I will show you that. So we'll try string ensemble. It's loading it up. Now when I say it's loading it, it's just sending the sound data here, but it's not storing it on this yet. More on that later. Okay, so there's one example. I will show you E piano 1, the famous patch. Alright, so that's how you load them in there, but not store them yet. Storing is next. Alright, so now you've got your cartridge loaded here with some DX7 sounds, and you can go through them, audition them. So when you click on one of these, it transfers it to the DX200, but only in a temporary memory buffer. It's not saving it on this. It's there, and you can audition it, see which ones you like. And let's try that. Those are the trumpets. Alright, so let's talk about storing it. So I'm going back onto the E piano, and storing in the manual, it's a little confusing. Manuals are always confusing. Storing it in this DX200 editor doesn't store it on the DX200. It stores it to your patch bank that you're creating in the editor. So let's say you've got your E piano pattern here, and let's say you change algorithms or something. Let's flip that, you get a new sound. Okay, and then you like that one, so you're going to store it to your patch bank in here. So you go to Edit, DX200 Store, and you've got your 128 spots. So the first 64 are the cartridge you already loaded, and then you've got your other spots. So I'm going to store it to 128. And again, it's not going into the DX200, even though it's showing that. It's just putting it in the temporary memory. If you were to turn this off and on, it's not going to be there anymore. So the way to get them on here is to dump them. And dumping, it's a two-part thing. So it does have a bulk dump of one pattern or all user patterns. And the mysterious thing is, I've tried it many times, it doesn't work if you just dump one pattern. So I tried it. I've got my modified noise here. I even tried moving this to user 128, and then clicking start to transmit the one pattern. It doesn't work. It circles around, but it doesn't save it when you turn this back on. So you have to do a bulk dump of all user patterns, and that takes a few minutes to do it, but it works. So I'm not going to do that yet, because I'm going to show you one more thing about the librarian of this, so that you can actually, since you got to dump them all, you may as well make a nice bank that you want to have all useful patterns in your bank. So you've got your cartridge loaded here. You've got your pattern list with your different ones here, and you go through and you audition them. And let's say you only like about 4 of these. So you want to use 4 from this cartridge, 5 from another, 10 from another. So you can do that and you save them all in one bank. What I did is I went through all of them. There are many. Well, I didn't go through all of the bass and flute and all of those cartridges that that was on the download that I showed you. But I found 32 patches that I liked. And the way I save them in my own bank is first I created a new DX200 editor file, and I'm not saving my changes to that because it's the original cartridge. So I'm initializing a new file, and if I look at my pattern list, it's just all initial patterns. So now you go to the DX200 Librarian and you open a file, and again here in the drop down you can choose the DX cartridge file, and you go through the different cartridges. You have to make a note when you're auditioning them where they are and what patches you want. So let's say I want to have a few from here, so I open this up and it's got the patches here, and I can just click and drag them over to my bank here. In one of mine I put them 32, I put them at 97 through 128, but in this example I'll just show you putting a few here. So let's say we like the piano, the organ, the bass. Okay, and then we want to get some from a different file. You have to change this from a different cartridge. You have to change that every time. And go to some of these. There's some interesting ones in here. So we can put a Wurlitzer and ballerina. So you keep going like that. Fill up as many as you want. You can do up to 128. Once you've done that, you want to save this bank as a DX2 file within the Windows editor here. So it's not saving it to the device yet, it's saving it within Windows. So I've got my bank here. I say, okay, I'm happy with these patches, and I then can go on save right here, the little disk, or I can go save DX200 editor file. So I like to use this because then I can name it, you know, what if it's all bases up, you know, my bases, something like that, whatever you want to name it. So let's just save it as a test. You see it's a DX2 file. You can't save it as a DXC. So that's not how you spell test. And we'll go save. So now it's saved in as a bank in this editor. It's still got the same patterns that I added in that librarian. And I'll just show you that they're still in the librarian part. Now, to get them actually onto this is where you do the bulk dump. So you do transmit bulk dump. You click on all, it doesn't say all, you just click on user patterns. I set the bulk dump interval to 1 second. It kind of defaults to 200 milliseconds. I didn't really want to mess with it too much. That is the time it waits between transmitting each patch or pattern. So 1 second worked. It's going to take a while anyway, so adding a bunch of seconds isn't going to make that much difference. So you click start, and it will start doing the bulk dump. Again, you can't do it one pattern at a time. I couldn't figure out how to do it. Other people on the net kind of say it's not possible. I haven't found that many people actually commenting on it, but definitely one big patch editor site says you have to do it as a bulk dump. So I'll pause this now. I'll let it kind of transmit all of that over, and then I'll show you one last thing about playing these. Oh, by the way, while it's transmitting, you're going to see it loop, and then you see it's going to stop. The looping will stop between each pattern that it's dumping. And it's even dumping the initial pattern, so it's going to take a long time. And of course now it's not stopping. It's just there. You see it pauses, and then it starts again. So the bulk dump is nearly done. It took about 10 minutes, maybe even longer. So you can see it's a pain if you want to edit just one voice and put it in your user patches. You still have to retransmit your whole library, your whole bank, 128 patterns, and it takes, like I said, about 10 or more minutes. And once they're there, it's going to say OK down here, and then the sounds I'll show you were transmitted into the DX200. So now your patches are in the DX200, and I'll show you them here. The pattern list, so I've got these 5. I think I might have put one, no, I didn't put one at the end. So those 5 are in there, so I'll play those. So that's piano, organ. So these are the DX7 sounds. I can't confirm that these are really DX7 sounds. I meant to mention that earlier. I just got them from that site that claims they are the patches from the DX7. And let's do the last one here. Now that they're in here, you can edit them in here and save them again. So that's the fun part of it. You can use all of the different filters, envelopes, effects on this to adjust your DX7 sound. So you can hear they're pretty static and mono, but there's no reason you can't add in the delay, the flanger, those kind of things. Delay, there's the, you know, the fun stereo delays, if you know how to get at those. You can mess with the attack and decay of it. It's probably not the best sound to show you that, but you get the idea. FM depth. So these things all affect your DX7 sound, and then you can save them within this with your store, and you can save it back to the same patch or a new clean one. And then that way you are making these DX7 sounds a little more interesting with the capabilities of this DX200. So a couple quick points about editing. If you have your patch here and you want to edit it within the DX200 Editor, you're probably going to want to have this set up on DX200 Editor setup. You want to have it output when edited so that you can audition it right away. And this is where you can choose your MIDI channel. MIDI channel 1 is the synth of this by default, synth engine of the DX200 by default. So outputting the edits right away. So for example, earlier I did this as algorithm 1, and then I've got my noises that you can audition this way or right on the keyboard of the DX200. And then the important thing on this is that you want to save this, store it within the editor program or the editor bank in your PC. So you have to do DX200 store, and then you pick where you're going to put it. So I'll just show you putting it here. Again, this won't really transmit it. It transmits it to the temporary memory, but it doesn't save it into this. It doesn't dump it. You'd have to do a full bulk dump and transmit the whole bank of 128 again with the bulk dump. I still can't get the one pattern to work, so if anyone figures that out, let me know. Then when you have your bank of patches or patterns here, one last thing about that, you can, from this pattern list, you can initialize ones that you don't want. So if you're getting a bit confused about which is what, you just need to clear up one. You can select it and initialize it once it's transmitted over to the temporary memory. You can initialize it and clear up a spot. You don't really need to do that if you're going to use the library. Oh, I just did a swap by accident. That's another thing. So I'm not going to go into how to use this whole editor. I don't really know how to use it that well. Only to just transfer different patterns over. That's what I'm getting good at. So now I'll just save my test DX2. I'll show you it in the librarian again. I've just got my 5 patches there. This isn't sort of an easier way to do it than through the pattern list. Just some final thoughts on the DX200. It's a cool little FM synthesizer and seems to play DX7 patches and patterns. I'm not going to go into using the DX200. It's got a lot of features, maybe in another video. But for now, I hope this helps anyone who has one and who wants to load in the DX7 sounds, or anyone who wants to get one of these. A little bit cheaper than a DX7, I think. They should be. So just be really careful though when you buy one of these. Make sure it has the plug-in, the card, the PLG150-DX card in it, because I've read that sometimes you can buy these and people have removed the card that you need. All right, hope that helps everybody. Have a great day. Thanks.